So yes, I knew it would happen. But it's kind of this happened the same way, um, way back when I made that mistake and my spirit had shattered. Vlog 13 talks about this a lot more, but basically when I was a child, the same kind of thing happened, but in the reverse of what's happening now. I had done magic on accident that, in the place that my mind was, the place that my heart was, where my intent was, it actually ended up shattering my spirit and left me with very little of it. Throughout the years, it either shattered even more or it stayed the same but didn't get any better. And there's a point there where I literally felt nothing. I literally felt like a robot because I couldn't even feel any emotion. I felt numb. I couldn't feel my own energy either. And so, for the past few years, I've been viciously trying to get that back. And the past few months, it's been a little bit faster. And so, past few months especially, I've gotten, to where I can feel not just a little bit of something, but, a moderate amount of something. But the last, week or so has been, I've been really drilling it in and really just, just all at once, immensely. Everything's happening all at once, and it's I'd say the majority of it happened this past week. I'd say, over 50% probably, but if not that, at least 50% probably happened this week alone. And so I'm feeling things that I haven't felt in the majority of 3 decades. And, like I said, when it happened before, it took a few days to really settle in. And now it's been a couple days and it's starting to settle in. It's not just emotion, it's the cravings, it's everything that goes along with my energy. We all have our own specific vibrational energy that is signature to us and us alone. And certain, aspects of that, protectors have similar energy, healers have similar energy, for example. What I am is the alternate form that I am is what we call a Ridgeson. If you don't know what that is, I've got a video on that. But it's a type of protector, it's a predator, and basically it hunts the things that are anything that's a threat to the forest, that's what it hunts. Anything that is of ill intent, that kind of thing. And so my tendency is to get really rageful whenever I see anyone or anything of ill intent, anyone or anything that's evil. But it's also, I'm a predator, so I've got a very, very dark, hungry side to me, literally. And I crave raw meat and blood. And it's something that without my energy, those cravings were either non-existent or very subdued. But now that I've got my energy back, I'm dealing with that again. As a child, I literally would bite down, even sometimes cut into my own flesh just to taste the blood, so that I wouldn't. Because it was so immense that I was afraid that I would attack somebody else. Imagine being addicted to something. If you know what that feels like, if you know what being addicted to, say, cocaine or something feels like, okay, imagine being addicted to something and you're around it 24/7. It's staring you right in the face 24/7. It's just what I'm addicted to is blood, and it was there. People were there 24/7. It's something that you just end up having to either have to learn to control, or And I will say that even though it's difficult to control, in the beginning, once you do get control over it, it makes your life a lot easier. But again, anyone who has struggled with any kind of addiction knows that the addiction never goes away. And it's something I was born with. It's not something I acquired. It's part of my physiology even. I was talking about before, I literally cannot process anything other than meat, maybe a few tree nuts or something, but most of it is literally, you know, I just because I can stomach it doesn't mean it gives me what I need to survive. Really, nuts don't give me what I truly need to survive. It's meat, and so it's got to be meat with high iron in it. And one of the few meats that I can eat without losing the taste after you cook it, because as human you have to cook things as human, you know, unfortunately the physiology is not so different that you can eat something that's rancid, you know. In fact, even I don't know even if my alternate form would be able to eat anything rancid, because it's kind of like a predatory, you know, it's not a cat, but it's kind of like a predatory cat because it only feeds off of fresh things. So I don't even know if I would be able to stomach it then. But, you know, what I'm trying to say is venison and things like that tend to, bison sometimes tends to retain the taste of blood even after it's cooked. People that are either Therian or shapeshifters, either one, basically the Therian, or what I would rather call animal soul, is, and I apologize, it's getting dusk again, so it's getting dark. I'm sorry. But people who are, your soul is an animal, you feel like you were born the wrong species, and you want just everything about being human. It just feels like it's not right. You feel like you want to rip out your own skin. Okay, people like that have lived many past lives probably as an animal, even if you're not shifters, a lot of them I've noticed still have these tendencies, still have these cravings for, you know, prey. And when I talk to people like this, the very rare occurrence that I cross paths with somebody that's like me, and then they realize, you know, okay, here's someone that's just like me, maybe they'll understand. And a lot of these people, because of society today, because of all the, you know, stigmatized things that society puts on people like us, they you know, are very hesitant. But one of the first things that come up in conversation ends up being, and I know exactly what they're going to say before they say it, because they'll start to say stuff like this right before. They'll start to say, you know, this is going to sound weird, and I don't want to creep you out, I don't want to scare you or anything, but I really want to ask you this, and I hope that I don't, you know, completely, you know, freak you out. And I already know what it is, that they're going to ask me, you know, whether it's normal to crave meat. And typically they word their words very carefully, because they're afraid that I'll be afraid. So they won't go as far as to say blood. Sometimes they'll go as far as to say raw meat. But really, you know, most meat, you can only taste the blood in it, you know, when it's still raw. Unless it's, you know, something like, again, that's kind of gamey maybe. Typically, you know, that is the taste that you're going after, is the blood, you know. And when you cook something, that taste either gets diminished altogether, or it gets, you know, it severely declines. So, you know, really the entire question all along is the raw meat, or raw blood especially. And they're too afraid to ask me if that's normal, and then I finally say no, it's normal, because any predator, even a normal predator, even someone who's not a shapeshifter, even just a random wolf out in the forest, a lynx, anything, they have the same issue that you do. Any predator is natural, but again, it presents itself oftentimes like an addiction, because it's you crave it that badly, and especially because what's available to you on any given day as a human, you know, is limited, and you're probably exceptionally nutrient deprived. Anyone who, for example, is immensely deprived in salt, they will crave salt, you know. It's kind of the same thing. And the other half of it is just who you are and what you do naturally, and it's just a part of you. Ridgeson is meant to hunt the evil things, to hunt the threat to the forest. Whatever the main threat to the forest is, that's what it goes after. Typically, the main threat is going to be human, so unfortunately, what I crave usually is human. Additionally, you get immensely rageful anytime you see something that's evil or something that is treating someone innocent, you know, badly. It takes every ounce of you to just stand there and not attack them. And that's the protector aspect of it. So I deal with literal bloodlust, rage, and just overall a lot of darkness. And by the way, dark energy is not ever evil. Okay, what I mean is sun versus moon, day versus night. Okay, that kind of elemental energy. And I'm used to feeling either nothing or relatively nothing compared to what I'm feeling now. I almost forgot what it felt like. It'd been so long. Last time I was truly me, I didn't have nearly as much wisdom. I didn't know right from wrong, and I didn't know who to trust and not to trust, and I didn't know how to see the truth in people's eyes. I just assumed that everyone was bad. So that's a part of why I lacked control a long time ago. Now I have a lot more control just because I've got a lot more wisdom and my head's in a lot better spot than it was before. It feels like home to me. It feels good to me. I'm no longer afraid of it. I no longer fear control. But I will say that it is like a big everything all at once. Apologise, it's getting dusk and I had to turn on a light. I fucking hate this light so much. I'm just gonna go outside. I used to not have control. I used to literally have to, you know, resort to basically getting my own blood to hush the cravings enough because I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust that I wouldn't, you know, hurt somebody else. I mean, that's how severe the cravings get. But nowadays, you know, I've got a lot more at my disposal. I've got a lot more self-control and discipline. And ironically, having my soul be complete and not shattered means that I can a lot more easily resist against anyone and anything that would be innocent, because my heart just wouldn't be able to. My heart would just stop me in my tracks, you know. So, you know, the only thing that I could potentially fly off the handle with would be someone who's evil anyway. But again, I've got enough control now that I can control those cravings with, you know, things like venison that taste close enough to it, close enough to what I'm craving, that it hushes it just enough to get me by. So whilst I'm not worried, it's just a lot of emotion and energy and cravings and just overall everything all at once. That's just, it's a bit overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. The good, the bad, the ugly, I would not trade anything, not even the worst parts of me. I would not trade it for nothing. I spent nearly 3 decades feeling literally nothing or close to nothing. It's better to feel something. It's better to be something than to be an empty shell. So it's up to me to make the right decisions. My energy, you know, what I face, I choose what decisions come out of that. You can't blame anything on energy, because you always have a choice. The right thing to do is to be who you really are, not who you're not, and choose to do the right thing with it.